doesn't get any pie. My father's voice cut through the noise of Thanksgiving dinner. He pointed a fork at my 9-year-old son's empty dessert plate. He didn't earn it. My sister Brittany's kids were already on their second slice. I put my hand on my son Caleb's back, felt the slight tremor under his sweater. I looked at the perfectly set table, the polished silver, the strained smiles. "We're leaving," I said. And we left. The door clicked shut behind us. A quiet little sound in a house full of noise. In the car, Caleb buckled his seatbelt and whispered, "Did I do something wrong?" "Mom," I looked at his face in the dim glow of the dashboard lights, his eyes wide and blinking back tears. "No, sweetie," I said, my voice tight. "We did something right. My name is Jessica. I'm 34. A single mom. And the oldest daughter. I work as a medical biller, which means I spend my days translating messy human problems into clean, organized codes. My life is a series of ledgers and line items. People call me the responsible one. What they really mean is, I'm the one they can call when their own responsibility runs out." Caleb loves science facts and has a theory that black holes are just places the universe forgets to put things. He had been so proud of the sweet potato casserole he helped me make, carefully arranging the marshmallows in a pattern. Only he understood. Thanksgiving at my parents' house always felt like a performance. The stage was set with my mother Jennifer's antique linen and my father David's unshakable rules of order. My sister Brittany was there, documenting every perfect moment for social media. My brother Justin was slouched in a chair, scrolling through his phone. Physically present, but mentally 1,000 miles away. I'd barely put our casserole on the warmer when Dad started his speech. "In this family," he announced to the room, "we value contribution." He looked right at Caleb. Brittany's kids helped their mother set the table. They earned their dessert. The air went still. I saw Caleb's shoulders slump. I'd asked him to bring in the extra chairs from the garage, which he did without a word of complaint. But that contribution was invisible. It didn't fit the narrative. My mother just smiled thinly and said, "David, let's not make a fuss." Brittany didn't look up from her phone. "He's just teaching him a lesson." "Jessica, don't be so sensitive." A hot, familiar anger rose in my throat. I looked at the untouched casserole, at the perfect table, at my son's crushed face. I touched his shoulder. "We're done." He stood up so quietly. His chair didn't even scrape the floor. He's good like that. I grabbed our coats and the casserole dish, because I knew we'd need dinner later. As we walked out, past the gallery of smiling family photos, I didn't slam the door. I wanted the silence of our exit to be the loudest thing they heard. The thing about being the family's financial shock absorber is that you get used to the impacts. You learn to brace yourself. For 10 years, I could map my life in their emergencies. When my mother's water heater broke, I put the $500 replacement on my credit card. "Just until your father's pension check comes in," she'd said. It never did. When Brittany decided she needed a new laptop for her influencer career, I co-signed the loan. When Justin got a ticket for driving with an expired registration, I paid the $300 fine so he wouldn't lose his license. Family helps family, my dad would say, usually right before asking for another kind of help. Help. That looked a lot like my name on their cable bill. My credit card points used for their vacation flights. My emergency savings account, slowly becoming my mother's dental implant fund. When I tried to say no, I was selfish. When I asked when I might be paid back, I was making things transactional. The problem wasn't my budget, it was their lack of one. A few years ago, I started keeping a secret spreadsheet. I called it the support ledger. Not for the big things, just the little ones. The, "Can you just grab milk?" The prescriptions I picked up. The $20 I'd slipped Justin for gas. Last year, the total for those small things added up to over $4,000, more than 2 months of my own rent. But it wasn't just the money. It was the assumed access to my time, my energy, my professional skills. It was me, a medical biller, spending a whole weekend deciphering my father's confusing insurance statements for free. The family history was always being rewritten to suit them. The time I gave them my old car, it became the car we let her use for a few years. The money I loaned Brittany became the gift I gave her to get started. After we got home from Thanksgiving, the backlash started. A text from Brittany at 8:15. You completely overreacted. Dad was just trying to instill some values. A missed call from my mother. Then, the direct hit. A text from my father. Since you have so much extra money, you can afford to be proud. The rent for the condo is going up by $200 next month. Effective immediately. I stared at the screen. The threat so blatant, it was almost comical. I felt the old panic. The familiar urge to apologize. To smooth things over. Then I walked into Caleb's room to tuck him in. On his nightstand was a drawing he'd made. It was 2 stick figures. One tall and one small. Holding hands inside a poorly drawn rocket ship. Underneath it, he'd written in shaky letters, Team Mom and Caleb. Going to the moon. And I realized my true family duty wasn't to them. It wasn't about paying their bills or managing their feelings. It was about this. My duty was to protect the little boy in this bed. My duty was to keep our rocket ship safe. The next morning, the family group chat lit up. A message from my father family meeting. My house. 1 p.m. Today. Be there. It wasn't a request. It was a summons. Brittany chimed in immediately. We all need to talk this out like adults. My mother added a string of prayer hands emojis. I felt that old, familiar pull in my gut, the ingrained training of the oldest daughter to show up, to fix, to absorb. The part of me that was still a little girl seeking my father's approval wanted to type, okay, I'll be there. But then I thought of Caleb's face, of his empty plate, of our little rocket ship. I took a deep breath and typed a reply. I am unavailable to meet in person. I can join a video call at 1:30. The response was immediate. My father, don't be difficult. Jessica. Brittany. Seriously, you're making this into a whole production. I held my ground. 1:30. Video call. That is what I am offering. A long, vibrating silence followed. I put my phone down and walked to my desk. My hands were shaking. But my mind was clear. For the first time, I wasn't going to let them set the terms of engagement. I was going to handle this the same way I handle a disputed claim with an insurance company. Professionally. Methodically. Without emotion. I opened a new document and started to prepare. I wasn't planning for a family argument. I was drafting a script for a high-stakes negotiation. I knew their tactics. They would start with guilt, then move to accusations, and finally, veiled threats. So I prepared my responses. I created what I called a boundary script. The formula was simple. Something I'd learned from a therapist years ago, but had never had the courage to use. First, you validate their feeling, but not their reality. I hear that you feel hurt. Second, you state your boundary clearly and simply. I will not be blamed for protecting my child. Third, you state the consequence of them crossing that boundary. If you continue to insult me or my son, I will end this call. I wrote down the key phrases. I anticipated their arguments and drafted my counterpoints. Not with emotion, but with facts. I practiced saying the words out loud to my empty apartment. I understand you see it differently. My decision is not up for debate. That is not something I am willing to discuss. Each phrase felt like a small piece of armor. I was no longer Jessica, the emotional daughter. I was Jessica, the professional, the advocate for my client. And my client was a 9-year-old boy who deserved to feel safe. My client was me. I was finally advocating for me. At 1:29, I clicked the link. Their faces filled my laptop screen. A panel of judgment broadcast from my parents' dining room. My father, David, was at the head of the table, his jaw set like concrete. My mother, Jennifer, was beside him, wearing the pearl necklace she only puts on for serious occasions. Brittany had a notebook and pen, poised as if she were taking official minutes. Justin was half in the frame, staring at something below the camera. Probably his phone. My father didn't waste time with greetings. Jessica, your behavior was appalling. You embarrassed this family, and you are teaching your son to be disrespectful. My mother leaned in, her voice soft and wounded. We are all so worried about you. You're isolating yourself. You're tearing us apart over a piece of pie. I took a slow breath, my scripted words ready on my tongue. I hear that you are upset. Brittany jumped in. Upset? We're furious. You're being incredibly dramatic and selfish. We all have problems. Jessica, I looked directly into the camera. My son's emotional well-being is not drama. That's when my father played his trump card. This is about gratitude. After everything we've done for you, the condo, the help when your husband left, I let him finish. I stayed quiet, letting the accusation hang in the air. I let them empty their chambers. Then, I moved my mouse. You're right, I said, my voice steady and calm. Let's talk about everything that has been done. Let's talk about the numbers. I clicked share screen. Their faces were replaced by a crisp, clean PDF document. The title at the top was in bold. Professional font, the family support ledger, an itemized account. 2012 to present. There was a dead silence on their end. I calmly scrolled down, line by line. The data told a story they couldn't deny. June 2015. Payment for Brittany's car insurance deductible. $750. Unreimbursed. I kept going. August 2017. Emergency payment for Justin's phone bill to avoid disconnection. $180. Unreimbursed. I had dates. I had amounts. I had screenshots of text messages with broken promises of repayment. January 2020. $5,000 gift to assist with parents' new car purchase. Funds transferred directly from my savings account. The air crackled. Their emotional attacks, their gaslighting. It all dissolved in the face of cold, hard data. My mother's hand went to her pearls. Brittany's pen was still. My father's face was a mask of disbelief and fury. What is this? He finally sputtered. Turn that off. No, I said, to my voice as clear and unforgiving as the numbers on the screen. We do this now. You wanted to talk about what's been done. So let's talk. The power had shifted. It was no longer in their dining room. It was right here. In my spreadsheet. Having seized the silence, I delivered my terms. They weren't a negotiation. They were a verdict. I will not be paying an increased rent, I said, looking at each of their stunned faces on my screen. In fact, I will not be paying you rent at all anymore. I have signed a lease on a new apartment. Caleb and I are moving out on the 1st of the month. My mother gasped. Brittany's jaw dropped. You can't, she stammered. Where will you go? To a place I can afford, I said calmly. Now that I am only paying for 2 people instead of 5, I continued, my voice gaining strength with every word. And to be clear, this is a complete financial separation. As of today, I have removed myself as an authorized user from your credit card. The family phone plan, which is in my name, will be canceled at the end of the current billing cycle. You will need to make your own arrangements. The same goes for the Wi-Fi and the streaming subscriptions. I had become my own billing department. For every service rendered, payment was now due. The currency was respect, and their account was severely overdrawn. My father's voice was low and menacing. You think you're punishing us? But you're only punishing yourself and your son. I shook my head. A small, sad smile on my lips. No. For the first time, I am choosing us. My brother Justin, who had been silent the entire time, let out a short, sharp laugh. It was a strange, unreadable sound. Good luck out there on your own, he said, the words dripping with cynicism. Watch me, I said, and I clicked end call. The silence in my apartment was deafening, then liberating. I stood up and walked to the kitchen. My untangling checklist was waiting. I started with the easiest things first. I logged into the streaming service. Click. Cancel subscription. I opened my banking app. Click. Stop automatic payment for their Wi-Fi. I called the credit card company and confirmed my name was removed. I took the physical card from my wallet and cut it into tiny, satisfying pieces. I felt lighter with each action. Each click was a snip of a cord. Each call was a step away from a life that was slowly draining me. I was packing a box of Caleb's favorite books when my phone buzzed with a notification. I expected another angry text. Another missed call. But it was Venmo. A $50 payment from Justin. The note attached was only 4 words. For pizza. You earned it. I stared at the screen. At this small, unexpected crack in the wall of family opposition. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a solution. But it was something. It was a recognition. And in that moment, it felt like enough. The first few weeks in our new apartment were sparse and quiet. The rooms echoed. Our only furniture was a thrifted armchair and Caleb's bed. We ate macaroni and cheese sitting on the floor and used moving boxes as a table. But it was our quiet. It was our echo. It was a peaceful, kind of empty. Caleb drew a huge, smiling sun and taped it to the wall where a couch would one day go. He didn't have to ask if it was okay. He just did it. One afternoon, our new neighbor from down the hall knocked on the door. Her name was Ashley. A vet tech with kind eyes and flower on her sleeve. She held out a plate of still warm cookies. "Move-in day, fool," she said with a smile. I heard a little person. "Figured you could use some sugar." Caleb beamed. Ashley became our first piece of chosen family. She didn't ask for anything. She just gave. A bag of dog food when her clinic had extra, which we donated to the local shelter. An offer to watch Caleb for an hour when I had a late meeting. It was a simple, reciprocal kindness I had almost forgotten existed. The messages from my biological family still came, but their power was gone. They were just words on a screen now. No longer tied to my housing or my finances.